Tlakudi has also made claims over the last year or so about the SAA deal, in which saw the Takatso Consortium buying 51% of what was formerly a state-owned enterprise. The Public Enterprises Minister, Pravin Gordhan, has said that Tlakudi has no evidence on which to base his claims and that he's been removed from office based on other wrongdoing. Phuthego Mojapele is an aviation analyst. Phuthego, good afternoon to you. Is it possible to know what's really happening in the deal between Takatso and how Takatso was actually chosen to buy 51% of SAA? This is all happening, of course, during the pandemic.
Yeah, Stephen, thank you very much for having me this afternoon. I think it is a concerning for us to be still talking about Takatso that has been announced for a couple of years now, and we haven't seen anything. I mean, if you track back to where we come from as SAA, going into business rescue in 2019, and after that we have seen the finalization of the that rescue plan being delivered to DPE, and DPE choosing this Takatso, which was two companies that were involved in, that is involved in that transaction, and up until today, that transaction has not gone through, and it has gone through different stages, even from the courts, coming from the courts, and even today, now we're dealing with the issue of the Competition Commission not approving the other partner on the deal itself. So the industry at the moment, is moving. It's not stagnant, and SAAs continue to lose on the market share that they used to control, and I don't see it getting concluded anytime soon because the other parties now, which is the Global Airways, they're saying they are not going to be adhering to what the Competition Commission suggests that they should be pulling out of this deal. So we are just not moving anyway as a state airline, South African Airways.
I mean, Phuthego, it's one thing for us to say, look, this has all happened behind closed doors. We've seen no documents. We don't know anything, and we're very suspicious. And frankly, I'm a cynical person, so, I go along with that. I'm suspicious. But is there any actual evidence of some kind of wrongdoing here? I have to confess, I haven't seen evidence of actual wrongdoing. I think what maybe we have, and I think this is legitimate, by the way, I think it's legitimate to be suspicious because there's been such a lack of transparency.
Yeah, you see, once you have many people or many voices coming out with suspicious type of operation, particularly when you look at the parties that were bidding for this transaction, I mean, there were potential bidders that came forth that wanted to come on board, and they were dismissed or they were not considered for that matter. And some of those were serious contenders that would have seen SAA moving from where it is at the moment to reclaim its international dominance and the regional dominance. At the moment, you have these gossips moving around, and as you say, the evidence is not something that is that we, you and I, can prove beyond reasonable doubt that indeed there was malpractice in this transaction. But at the end of the day, this is a controversial deal. People are talking about it. We are talking about it. It is not happening at the moment. And I think there is something that all of us that are concerned can continue to suspect that there was something that was not right with this deal.
So, Phuthego, I mean, it's controversial for lots of reasons. The one is the lack of transparency. You and I have discussed that. Also, that it was privatization, right? It's privatization of a state-owned asset. That's always going to be controversial, and it may not be the last time. I mean, we may start to see things in other sectors. Is it also about the history of SAA? And let me get to my point, which is you talk about business rescue in 2019, the state capture era, the pandemic, of course, the final straw, really. Was there any other option for SAA apart from some sort of deal involving a 51% privatization like this?
Look, there was, before the business rescue, the likes of Emirates, they came forth and they wanted to have a stake in SAA. And we all know through the state capture what came out of the state capture. And I think even beyond the Emirates stake that they wanted in here in SAA, I think there were other potential bidders that would have actually contributed quite immensely in the transaction. The issue of transformation, again, it is important for, it was important for SAA. But at the end of the day, you need an airline that was going to be participating in the market safely, and a safe airline. At the same time, we should be incognizant of the fact that where we come from as a country, and we should be addressing that issues, but not necessarily in a manner in which it's going to cripple the industry or the airline, which is, at the moment, it is on its knees as we speak, because it's really not doing optimally as it should be. And I think where we are sitting now, Stephen, is that it's going to be very difficult to get into the market and claim that. I mean, you look at for example, Airlink is claiming most of the regional connectivities that SAA was dominant on. And you're looking at SAA itself at this stage. You have a lot of pilots now that were left, that chose not to take VSPs at SAA, that decided now to resign. They are resigning, they are going to Middle East, they are going to other airlines. And you ask yourself whether is this airline really going to, to go back to where it comes from? Whether Takatso comes with their 3.5 billion or whatever amount that they are going to bring on board, whether is going to be relevant, is going to be a viable business. At this stage, domestic, we know domestic, it's highly dominated by the likes of Airlink, Airlink sure, as well as Staff Air, and also Global with the Lift. And is the SAA have the market domestic? Do they have the market regional, international? Do they still have the market? It's something that we need to look at. I just think that we need to move beyond Takatso and try and see if indeed there's going to be a position for SAA to be able to participate on the market.
Kgathatso Tlakudi, so he's been fired. We're told that he's been fired for one set of things that he did, and he's been making claims, separate things, about Pravin Gordhan, the minister, about this deal. I thought it was maybe a curious decision for Parliament to decide to hear from someone who'd been fired. On the other hand, sometimes someone who's been fired can tell you things that no one else can. How do you see it?
I think Mr. Tlakudi had an opportunity, or the portfolio committee member had an opportunity to probe this issue beyond what is being prepared before the committee. I think they missed an opportunity to deeply probe more into this transaction. They were not necessarily, going deeper into the transaction as they should have been. Probably they did not have an advisor who could have actually assisted them to get, to where they needed to be dealing with, particularly on the issue of the transaction. I think Mr. Tlakudi would have actually shed much more light onto how this transaction went, particularly the fact that we had the companies, the American companies like the Seaberry that came and advised the BRPs, and they collected quite a huge chunk of money out of South African Airways during the business rescue. And the business rescue, processes as it was, it collected quite a huge chunk of money out of South Africa. And what are we left with at the moment? We are left with nothing. Yet the intention of the business rescue was to save the airline. Was the airline safe? No, it's not safe. I don't think so. And I think that's where Mr. Tlakudi or the members of the portfolio committee could have get the information for us as a public to at least get all these issues that we have been suspecting out there in the public. And I think they missed the opportunity here, where he could have actually gave us more information as to how the transaction was done and what is it that he knows. The information that you were talking about earlier about whether do we have evidence, I think that's where he could have actually assisted us to get there.
Phuthego Mojapele, thank you very much. Mojapele, excuse me. Thank you very much indeed. Aviation analyst, really appreciate the time.